are a number of stretches that you will see and probably done as triathletes that are very common. However, when you look at the science, it actually is shown that maybe they cause more problems than actually potentially good. Now, one that we've stopped using is what we call a glute figure 4 stretch. It's one you see actually a lot in yoga and Pilates as well, and it stretches your gluteal muscles. However, one of the common injuries that people can have as triathletes, particularly female triathletes, is tendon problems related to their glute muscle. And there's science to show that stretching that muscle, particularly for a female because you've got slightly wide hips, could actually contribute to having glute tendinopathy. So we avoid this. It's a bit like scraping a scar. It feels nice when you do it, but in the long run is actually potentially going to limit the healing or put you at greater risk of having an injury like that. The other stretch is the cobra. Now, you'll see this in all different sports, but again, particularly yoga and Pilates, where if you've got a bit of a stiff back, you'll want to try and stretch that back out, particularly your lower back. So you'll lie on your front and you'll lift the chest up and you'll get this big extension, what we call hyperextension through your lower back. However, there is very compelling research and experience from coaches like us that show doing that stretch acutely can feel nice, but actually it can contribute to the problem. It can actually make it worse. So instead of focusing on stretching that area of the spine where you're feeling the tightness, we find the best way is to stretch below there in your hips, particularly your hip flexors, and above there in your thoracic spine. You'll get that same reduction in tightness in your lower back, but you won't be stretching an area which could actually make things worse. The final one is to do with swimming. So you've done a lot of meters and you just feel tight through the shoulders and you want to open them up and stretch them back, usually by holding like a bar or maybe a doorway and just wrenching that shoulder back directly through the joints. Now we know that a bit like scraping a scar, that will feel nice. However, if you're doing that constantly, what you're probably doing is just exacerbating or just reinforcing the problem, which is causing that excessive tightness through the shoulders. So remember, your shoulders are one of the most unstable joints in your body. We need muscles to be balanced and we need them to stay strong, stiff and in place. Now we do want to stretch usually through the front of the shoulder, but we like to use stretches more like a doorway stretch with the forearm against the doorway, because it allows us to create enough movement through the shoulder to stretch the muscles that we do want to stretch. They get tight, particularly your pectoralis minor, but it avoids us wrenching that shoulder too far back and starting to stretch areas within the shoulder that we don't want to loosen and stretch off as well. So stretching is beneficial as a triathlete, but stretching the right areas is the key thing. Stretching just anywhere in general isn't going to be the answer. And these three give really good examples of maybe things that you're doing a little bit of now, which just with a couple of tweaks and changes, you can get more out of and is a hell of a lot more safer for your triathlon performance ahead.